Good evening, Book War followers. Oh, I hope we have found you on a really lovely Sunday evening. It's been pretty warm here. So we will just wait and for Miss Hattie to pop on when she gets here. Oh, she's so quick. She's coming. She's coming. Except I'm gonna try. Maybe. There she is. Hi, sis.
Hello, how you doing?
Look at where I'm at.
You are in your living room with all your fancy books behind you.
Because my children aren't here. No one is in
Okay.
the house with me.
I'm like, but why are you? Okay, because they're in the house. That's why you never set up there. I was
Yeah,
like, okay, that's always there, Anna. You can set up there anytime.
no,
But
no, no,
okay,
because my children, yes, because my children and husband are loud and obnoxious, and so I always set up in my. Oh, I know. I don't know where they get it from. Obviously,
yeah,
their father.
no idea. Yeah,
Obviously.
obviously,
Um,
it's got to be laying out because he's so loud and
he is. He's really. It's really
yeah,
obnoxious. It's really starting to become a
yeah,
problem. We are gonna go.
that laying out.
Um, but because they're so loud, and even if they were downstairs, that I always do it upstairs where I can shut the door
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that's true.
To just keep out some of the extra sound. So I was like, oh, Lionel, I can do it in downstairs in front of my beautiful
You look all
bookshelves.
booky. Yeah, it's very good.
So,
And your hair looks super cute, by the way.
oh, thank you. It's actually getting too long. I get a cut on Wednesday.
Yeah,
But thank you. This is
yeah,
because it's getting too long. It just like is falling.
yep.
So,
I
I wore it without the barrette, to church this morning, and they were like, "You look like you have horns." I'm like, "Well,
you know,
a pass for me. Come to
like preachers do, right?
preachers." And I may have talked about evil this morning,
Oh,
so yeah. Anyway,
you
I'm
were
trying
just
to live into it.
you embracing it exactly. Yeah,
Embracing it. Yeah,
hmm
yeah. It's a good day. It's a good
I
day.
like
So
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was like, we were because you know what I was doing right
Yes,
before
we
I.
were watching
Yeah,
Olympics.
of
Correct.
course,
Yeah.
because that's all I will be doing
Mm.
from
Yes.
basically Friday
Mhm.
until the end of the
Ooh,
Olympics.
your nails look
Yes.
nice. Are that
Okay. So
are those black? Those aren't
they
black.
are. You remember when you were here and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ever going to use this blue.
They look great.
They're blue. They look kind of like grayish, bluish purple. I said to George, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do my nails. Get this, Hannah. I'm going to do my nails blue because the Olympics.
Wow, Hattie. It's impressive.
But
They
yeah,
do look great though.
but they came out good. They're like first coat. I said
Mhm.
to George, I put the first coat on and I said to George, I was like, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to do the second
Yep.
coat and see how they came out. Second
Mhm.
coat, brilliant.
Works
They
great.
look great. So,
Brilliant. They look great.
yep.
They really do. They look good.
Sporting some blue nails,
For the
a la Go USA
Go
in the
USA
Olympics.
Olympics.
Yeah,
Yeah. There you go.
exactly.
Good job. Good
So,
job.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my
Cool.
thing.
Okay. Well, tonight we are talking genre reads,
Sort
which
of. I'm just going
sort
to
of.
say, just because I've been watching the Olympics for
Oh,
like,
so yeah. I'm actually almost finished with
that's good.
mine. It was so yes, but no spoiler yet. But
Okay.
so our genre read for July,
Mm-hmm.
this July,
It
yeah,
is
July
indeed July, yes. Mhm.
is modern fiction,
Right.
which Hattie unfortunately realized meant she had to read a fiction book that was set in
And
modern time.
I tried, you guys. I tried. I was like, well, Hannah, maybe it just means that the author has to be like a modern person. But no, Hannah said no. But I
I actually
made
think the word
Hannah
was
like find me something because I'm like,
contemporary fiction. I think the genre is actually called contemporary fiction.
I think you're right. I think you're
It's
right.
modern romance, but
I think it
contemporary fiction.
was contemporary fiction. I
And
think you're
I'm
right.
pretty sure I'm right on this. If someone would like to argue and disagree with me, please feel free. But I
I
think
am
I'm
not
right.
going to argue or
No,
disagree.
I know.
I was just trying to work the
No,
system because I'm
no, I
sure
know
that
you
you are
are.
right about this.
No, I know. I'm pretty sure I am right about this one. So Hattie picked, she did come to my house and she looked through a good chunk of them and she ended up picking, go ahead.
The Bad Muslim Discount
Mm-hmm.
by Saeed M. Masood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like
Not,
100 pages in.
not,
100
not
pages.
super far.
You know,
Not super far, sis.
I would have been further. I started on Thursday,
Ah, but then the Olympics started.
but then the Olympics started on Friday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm only 100 pages in. But this is what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I like this book.
Good.
I like this book. So far,
Yeah.
it's like there's two storylines. There's like
Yep.
one young man's storyline of immigrating to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
From Karachi, and then there's this other storyline of this young woman and her dad.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where they live right now. Maybe
That's
Pakistan, but I'm not sure. Um, but they live there, so I don't know if they're going to immigrate to
oh
America. I should have said that. The first family, the young man, they immigrated to America.
yeah, you
Um,
did say that.
okay,
You did.
okay. And then, so I don't know. This family, this mother, or excuse me, this father and daughter are not have not immigrated, or I think it's Pakistan. I'm gonna say Pakistan. I'm not 100% sure. Um,
You're only 100 pages in.
I'm only 100 pages, and they've already said it like 17
Well,
times, and it
of
didn't
course they
like,
have.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I apologize for not actually remembering, but I'm guessing maybe like they
Mm-hmm.
also, because I think the book, is like from the cover, it looks like very like, people
Yeah.
who have immigrated and like, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of a story. So it's really good so far. I really am enjoying reading it. I have like no complaints whatsoever. I mean,
Mhm.
like I said, I'm only 100 pages in. But I figure I'm 100 pages in and I'm like, oh no, I like
I mean,
picking this book up and
honestly,
reading
for
it.
you in a contemporary fiction book,
It's not bad.
that's like winning.
Yeah. It
Like super
actually
winning.
kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had that book on my shelf for
Hmm.
years, actually. I bought it at Content, and I still
Oh, okay.
haven't read it, but our friend Amy, who doesn't read a lot of
Oh,
fiction,
yeah.
and so she was here one day and she saw it on my shelf and she's like, "Can I borrow that?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So she actually
Hmm.
borrowed it and she did not hate it. For a person who hates fiction,
Who hates fiction?
hate is a strong
Hate
word. Who does
is
not.
better. She finds it useless.
I was going to say she does not connect to it well, or she finds it useless. Yes, one of those two things.
Depending on who you're talking to, Hannah's maybe a little more generous. But also, like Amy wouldn't care that I said it
Would
though.
not.
I
We would
just want to
say
say
that
that.
to her face, and she would agree. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
she's
sure
like,
she's
yeah,
actually used those words about fiction
yeah,
before.
yeah. She
She's
probably has more than
been
once.
working on expanding her horizons, though,
Yeah,
so that's
as
good.
we all are. Hence,
As
I
we
read
all
some
do.
contemporary fiction. So,
Yep,
yep,
yep.
yep,
Um,
absolutely.
and so for me, the book war community
Hmm.
picked my, as you do every month right now, contemporary fiction, and you all picked The Seed Keeper by Diane Wilson, and it is fantastic. And Hattie, you would like this book.
Okay.
What you should do is, this isn't my actual
Hmm.
copy. This is my friend Michelle's copy.
Okay.
You should buy it, read it, and then give me the
And
copy
then you get the copy. Yeah, of course.
because it's worth it,
Okay,
though. It's
it's
like,
good.
it's a really, really good book. So this is a story about an Indigenous woman, and it's contemporary fiction. So you start in 2002,
Okay.
and the reason you're gonna like this is because we start with her in 2002, and I don't think it's a spoiler when it's like the very first page
No,
that tells you that her husband has died.
no, I don't think it's a spoiler if they tell you
Yeah.
on the first page. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and so she's a widow, and she's going back to her where she
Uh,
grew up.
uh,
Her kind of, I'm gonna say like a cabin on a reservation.
okay.
And so it's her story. It starts there, and then we jump into her history a
Hmm.
bit. And so she grew up in after her father passed away.
Hmm.
She grew up in Mankato here in southwest Minnesota.
Hmm.
And so there's a story of her, and then she has a friend, and we get some of the friend's story throughout these different times
Hmm.
as she's like teenager, just at the end of high school, young adult, having children.
Yeah.
We're kind of at like the kid has now gone off to college. I mean, we jump back and
Right.
forth between her in 2002 present
Yeah.
and moving forward with her husband passed away, and then like from her high school to this point. And then there's another storyline throughout all of this as well, which is actually, I'm imagining it's her ancestor in the
Hmm.
1800s, and that
Yeah.
journey of that woman through the colonization and occupation of indigenous communities by Europeans, right, in Minnesota.
Hmm.
So in this particular space, the Dakota people getting
Yeah.
pretty much
Displaced. I mean, and
displaced,
that's a nice
deeply
way
displaced.
of saying it.
Yeah,
To
that's the
be honest.
nicest way of saying it. So it is, but it is really, really good. The speed is really well
Nice.
done. The timing, the pace of the book is really well done.
Mhm.
And like it feel like when I said that, I was like, oh, it feels like there's a lot of breaks, but it fits. Like she's
Yeah.
done a really nice job of weaving it, and this kind of deep piece of the seed and what happens in the seed, and then her, so it's really, I think it's absolutely fabulous. And I'm not
That's
even
great.
finished. I mean, I'm almost
Yeah, you're
finished.
getting there.
I'm at 263 of 340.
Yeah.
And again, the only reason I didn't finish it was, well, first off was because I ended up driving home. I was going to read on my way home from dropping our kids off, as well as the Olympics started. So my evenings have been a little bit more
I know.
Olympic than anything else. So,
Yes.
but I honestly, if you're at all intrigued by this, and I really do mean this, Hattie, if you
Mhm.
see it at your bookstore, you should just
Okay.
get it. I would be shocked if you did not
No,
like
yeah, it sounds like
it.
something I would like. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't like
Yeah,
it.
I don't know why
Yeah.
you wouldn't like it. So, but if you're at all interested, I highly recommend.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. And it's not a tough. So far, it hasn't been like a tough read,
Yeah.
like either emotionally or like it's really accessible. Like in terms
Yeah.
of like language and the way she writes,
That's
it's very accessible. It's not like some literary. It's not. I would call it literary fiction, but it's not like
yeah.
the literary fiction that you're like, oh my god, what?
Like, what is going on?
I
What
mean, I
is
like some
this?
of those books, but they are a little esoteric
They can
and a
be.
little like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
You
what are
kind
you
of have to
talking
just be in
about?
like the right
Like,
headspace and like be really into like either like the genre or like the content, right? Like if it's like super
yep.
esoteric, but it's like something that is like really interesting to you, then like you want to sort of dig into it and get that out of it. Otherwise, you're just like,
Like, who are the? What are
yeah,
we doing?
like
What's happening? So,
what? Yeah,
so
I get that.
anyway, but highly recommend. Very, very,
Okay.
very good. And if you don't buy it, I will buy this book at some point. I'll probably buy it anyway, most likely, because I'll forget that I told you that.
Yes, you will.
But I would have a copy of this on
Yeah,
my shelf.
it's that good.
For sure. It's absolutely worth it. I haven't got to the end of it, and I'm not quite sure where it's going
Yeah,
either, which I'm also like, ooh, but it's been a really nice book.
that's
So
good.
I'm really
That's
happy with
great.
it. So thank you to the
Yeah,
book war for voting that one in as
for
well.
saying you need to
I,
read this book.
I wasn't going to be sad about any of them, but one I was really excited about.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then I can give it back to my friend because she's let me borrow it for like a year.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably time to let it
Yeah,
out.
probably. The other thing I was going to talk about, because I was like, oh, if we only talk about this and neither one of us
And
has
neither one
finished
of
our
us
book
actually
yet,
finished our book because, Olympics.
I was going to say about like what I'm looking forward to
Before.
reading, more so than like what I've read, because I don't know that anybody cares about what I've read right now. It's not super exciting. So, but we are reading the next 3 chapters of Eve.
Yes.
And I just finished my current audiobook today,
Oh, good.
so that I can actually get these 3 chapters read this
Yeah.
week, because I haven't started yet.
I know, I haven't started either. That's like, I actually have to read that this week. So, like, Bad Muslim discount is going to get like back shelved this week because of the Olympics and this other book.
Yeah. But it is only 3 chapters, and the last time we did an introduction and 3 chapters, so it's a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to that, and this is a reread for me.
Mhm.
But it has been really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's been really fascinating, and the reread has been helpful as well. Just as kind of like when anything's like super sciencey, it's helpful to do rereads for myself.
Reread, absolutely. Yeah, you catch more, you figure it out more. Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing that came out this month was the oh my god, I want to say HarperCollins, and I'm not sure if that's right. The New York Times, the New York Times Best 100 of the 21st Century.
Yeah, I think that's what it
was.
was. Yep.
With HarperCollins, is that, or is it
HarperCollins is the publisher, so that could be what you're trying to come up with.
I know. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, one of the publishers too, along with them, and I can't remember, but with New York Times. But they came out with the top 100 books, and I had a couple on my shelf. Yeah. So they moved up to my my TBR list. The first is The Road, which everybody who I've had it for a while, and Dad's read it. Our dad has read it, and he really likes it. Okay. And I've actually had a couple other people. I got this in that. You remember when I did that 12 Days of Christmas book thing?
Yeah.
That's when I got this. That was a couple of years ago now. And when I had posted it as one of my books, people were like, "Oh my god, it's so good! You gotta read it." Okay. So it has moved to the top of my list, and it's like really. Oh, look! They call it a farce. because it is an adult literary fiction from what I understand, but it is
Okay, but it's
sparsely
it
written.
sure is.
Journey of a father
Okay.
and son in the
Oh,
apocalypse. So
that sounds lovely.
no, you would hate it, but I'm gonna give it a go.
So I said it that way. I was like, oh, that sounds
And then the other one, I think this was on there. I'm pretty sure it was on there. It's tomorrow
what?
and tomorrow and tomorrow.
I saw that one on there. Yeah.
And I've had this on my shelf for a long time too. I've had a
Yeah.
good couple of friends who said they really, really loved
Yeah.
it.
I've only heard good things about it. I haven't read it, but I've
By
only heard good stuff.
by Gabrielle Zevin, I think. And I think it's I think based on the title it's science fiction, but I don't think it is. So
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what this one's
I have
about.
no idea. Yeah, I mean, I see it all over the place,
Isn't
but
that
I have
terrible?
no. Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't read it. So.
I think it's actually about gaming somehow.
Oh.
Now that I said that, I think I reread. I think it's maybe about gaming.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe in line with like Ready
Player One.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's the other one that I'm really looking forward to. I'm hoping to get the Seed Keeper done here in the next couple of days and get the road done quick. Listen to some Eve and then get on to tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
Excellent. So the one that I brought, this is something that we both just read, and I just think it would be fun to have a small little conversation about it, because I think we approached it very differently, and we got sort of like different feelings from it. So we just read this book, The Mysterious Society of Lady Scoundrels by India Holton. This was our book club book for July. So when we put our book club book together, we do it like a year at a time. And like we've learned over the last few years that there are like certain months of the year that like people just kind of need a break, right? Just something easy, fun, like no big deal to read. So one of our book club members recommended this book and just as like a fun read that she just thought everybody would really enjoy. And so Hannah and I decided like, let's do that for July.
Yeah.
So we read this one for July, and it was just funny because like Hannah and I just had this really brief conversation about it. So I'll just tell you sort of my take, and then I want to hear Hannah's take. So for me, this book was perfect, by the way. It sort of hit all the points that, like, just generally speaking, I like in, like, my fun reading. Like, the protagonist was a woman who is quirky and weird, and, like, there's sort of, like, this weird sort of, like, sort of magical world that it doesn't take a ton of setup. You kind of figure out what's going on pretty quickly. And all the characters are sort of quirky, right? But for me, it was a really easy read. But for me, I was telling Hannah that I got stuck in the fiasco that was flying last week, and it was absolutely perfect for just sitting in the airport and not stressing about the fact that I was sitting in the airport for all this extra time, and then we sat on the plane waiting for a gate for like over an hour on the tarmac, and just like having this book to just sort of like read and just kind of like go into this other world that was completely nonsensical and didn't matter, but was just kind of fun with quirky characters was perfect. Right.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I don't know that it would have been perfect if I had if I'd been reading it in any other sort of like context, like for myself, right? But because of like where I was and what I was doing and what I was in the midst of when I was reading it, I'm like, yep, this is exactly like what I needed, right? So I really enjoyed it. I thought I really did find it just quirky and fun and silly, right? It was definitely silly.
Very light. Very Yeah. Absolutely.
For sure. And just for me in the moment when I was reading it, it was just exactly the right thing. And so I sort of came away with it with like kind of like good feelings about it. And so I'm super interested to hear from everybody on Thursday.
I know. Oh, by the way, I haven't told you this yet. I had completely convinced myself that my book club was on Thursday.
I was going to ask you about that because this is what happens. When people log on to my Zoom, I get an email saying that they're there. And the next day, I'm like, I see this email and I'm like, I wonder if Hannah thought book club was last night.
Super convinced. Like, I had it so hard in my head. So sometimes when I have a lot of things going on at night, I will like write out my schedule for the next day because it just helps me visualize whatever. I'm a weirdo. But And so I had done that, and I had book club on there. I mean, I've been talking about I had book club on Thursday night this week for the whole week. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be here for like 4 nights this week because I have book club on. I have all these other meetings, and then this dinners, and then I have book club on Thursday, and like whole time, all week. Super convinced. Get home, we eat. I'm like, okay, we got to be done. Get out of the place. We got book club. I get on, and I'm like, Hattie, you never sent another email. Oh well, everybody will find it from. I was like. I literally, in my head, was like, Hattie, you never sent the updated email.
Yeah, the email with the Zoom, because I haven't sent that yet, because it's not book club week. Yeah.
And, I mean, I went the whole way, and I was like, Jesus, we'll have to talk about that. And I'm sitting there going, like, and it was like, of course, like, I'm always there at, like, 6:28, 29. Like, I do not go on early. And I'm like, this is weird. Hattie should be here. She's always here. Her and Mom are always here.
Always there.
And then that was the thing.
That was the thing that triggered.
It's July 26th, Hannah. It is not August 1st. Like, I had a drink ready. I had poured. I mean, I had done the whole thing. I was ready for book club, and it wasn't book club.
You were ready. Well, you'll just be really ready. You'll actually probably forget this week. That's what's going to happen. Is like this week is going to like blow by. Yeah. I'm going to be like, Hannah, are you coming to book club?
You coming to book club?
7:45.
I did last week. No one.
No one else was there.
Yeah. So, my take on the book, it was a perfectly fine book. For me, it was just like, it wasn't anything, I can't quite remember what I told you. I feel like I told you something about it.
What you said to me, I'll just tell you what you said to me, just to refresh your memory. What you said to me was you kind of had to like force yourself to read it.
I did.
Yeah.
I did have to force myself to read it. But I think, thinking about my reading habit this last few months, I feel like I've had a really hard time getting caught up in books.
Yeah.
Like, I've been feeling a little bit like I've had to like force myself to read like most of my books, and I think this one just wasn't really different. And that's also why I was like really happy. Like, this book has like captured my imagination. Like, I want to read it.
Yeah.
So it was also like kind of like, oh, thank God it's not. So I kind of assumed that was just what was going on with that too. Is I've just kind of been in a funk. Like, this happens to me in the summer most of the time. Like, I just have a hard time focusing. There's so many things to do, so many decisions to make, so many like logistics to happen. Like, to sit and like just read is difficult for me in the summer.
Yeah.
So, and I think I was not, and this is not going to surprise Hattie at all, I was not as enchanted by the setting because I'm not as enchanted by Victorian England as many people are. Like, people just love that world. Yeah. And like, and I think without having to try, you love that world. And I'm kind of just like, okay.
Well, it's no work for me either, right? Like, I don't have to like learn about it. I have to like, it all is just like there in my head. So I think that also, like with this one in particular, it was like it was no work to just fall into it. You know?
And I think loving that world helps in a book like this.
It does.
Like, already loving that world, wanting to read about that particular time period, and like, but it was a perfectly good book. There's nothing I had any issues. Well, I mean, I can't quite say that, but there were a couple things I was like, oh, that's odd. Like, some classist stuff, which would be appropriate for the time, but like, this isn't real. So why are we continuing some of that? I had some of those things in it. But that's just also me being annoying. So I could also just.
But they're always like, those are always feel like, because that always comes up, right?
Right.
Even in like, it just made me think about the stuff that came up in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Like there was racist stuff, right? There was like immigration stuff, right? You know, and it's like, it's true to the time, but you feel like, oh, I wish it wasn't there. You still sort of feel like that.
Well, and the thing with this particular book, with that one, is like, it's not real. Like, the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels isn't real.
Right.
Flying Houses isn't real. Like, you were making up a world. So then why are we also keeping, like, that was the part that was a little, that just, for me, right? I was like, you didn't need to put that in there. Like, you didn't need to say that. There were just a couple things I was like, okay, you don't have to be, okay. Anyway, I don't know. But there was three. It was like three.
A couple quirky, weird things. I mean, there definitely were. They were like, I don't think that was necessary. Yeah.
And they didn't feel like relevant to moving the story forward, too, right? Like, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, like, it's semi-memoir.
Yeah. Memoir. It's sort of like memoir.
So, like, there's also, but anyway. But yeah, it was a perfectly. And if somebody was like, would you recommend this book? I'd be like, if you're interested in it, yes. If you read the back of that and they're like, oh, this sounds good, read it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If read the back of it and you're like, oh, I don't know, then I'd be like,
just don't.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably not.
See, I don't even know if I would recommend it. Like, I don't even, like, but I've read so many other things like this that I think are like better. You know,
like right, yeah. And but I would never. If somebody looked at it, and was like, "This sounds really interesting and intriguing." I would never be like, "Oh, I don't think so."
Yeah, I'd be like, "Oh no, it's like a fun read." You know, it's like an easy, fun, kind of lighthearted.
Yeah, and it was, and it was. It has a happy ending. It all comes together. It wraps up, and there's a nice little bow.
Yep.
And for those of you who might not know, I hate bows.
Yep.
I prefer death.
But I would just like to say I've already heard some like positive feedback about this book. We've also heard some not great feedback about this book from our book clubbers. But this is a good point though to make though, Han, because here's the thing. It's like we actually all do kind of want different stuff.
We do.
From our entertainment, right? Whether that's movies or books or, you know, or videos on YouTube, which I don't watch, but Hannah does.
And then I make you watch them.
And then Hannah makes me watch them.
And she laughs hard.
Sometimes I do laugh hard. I do. I think there's one sitting in my thing that I haven't watched yet. You said it? No, I can't remember. You sent like two really back to back, and I'm like, ooh, I can only do one at a time. So there might be one sitting there waiting for me. Anyway, but the whole point of what I was saying though is like we do like even in our book club, which we're sort of a weird random conglomeration of weird ladies, to be perfectly honest. But there's people who are like totally going to eat this up, I think, in our book club, and I think there's going to be other people that are like, what was that?
But I also think the thing I love about our book club, I'm sorry, and this is me patting ourselves on the back a little bit, but I'll just, is that I do think we as a book club have gotten to the point, and I think we started this way. It was like, we're going to read stuff, and we're not going to always like it, but can we find the reason why we read it?
Yeah.
And like that there is a purpose to it. And I think even for me with this book, like I don't know that I could have read anything much heavier in July either. Like it was the right book. It just, and I think that to only ever read books that you love or to not, or like to think that you have to read a book, you have to love the book, is also like, that's just kind of, that's a tough thing. But I do think in our book club, we do a good job of that. And then even the books that people are like, that was terrible, but I mean, I'm not totally regret I read it. Some of them, maybe that's probably not 100%.
There's been a few that people are like,
no.
Ourselves included, by the way. It isn't just, like we have picked books that we do not like.
That we
so like just to be fair, it isn't just our book clubbers. We do have a good book club on that because I do think it comes out in almost every conversation during book club, whether people liked it, disliked it, were neutral about it, didn't finish it, whatever, right? We can almost always like we can find that reason that like, oh no, that actually okay, that makes sense. Like, no, I want to pick that up. No, I'm not going to read it again.
Right.
But I don't regret the time I spent reading it and having this conversation with these people.
With these people. Right. Yes. And I think it'll be the same with this one. And I think it is, I just had one with my church ladies do a book club. It doesn't have to be ladies. It just happens to be that's who came to the book club. Sorry, I should say it that way. But, and that there again, right? It was like, it's actually good sometimes when you don't love something because then you can actually have a deeper conversation about some of the themes and some of the things and the characters that you didn't care for. But when somebody really loves it and it's like been transformative, you also are like,
everybody else is sort of like got to back off a little bit. But that's true though, because like you don't.
You don't want to hurt.
There's more.
The whole point of this is not to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah, I mean, like we don't really get to book club just to trash books and yell at each other. I mean, there are a couple of us that we would do. Us and our one friend would totally do that.
We would be happy to do that.
We would, and sometimes we stay late and we do that. We do. But
that is also true. That's also true. We do this. I'm so glad no one watches our.
I know. It's a good thing nobody watches this.
It's a good thing nobody watches.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm looking forward to book club. I did want to just sort of like have that because I knew we kind of had like at least a little bit of different perspectives.
Yeah, we did. We had definitely different reading experiences of that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep,
absolutely.
Yep. So good. Anything else that you're looking forward to reading coming up?
This is the funny thing that happened this week, I'll tell you, because that box that you sent me with all the books that I bought when I was with you,
Yeah.
got here and just yesterday. And it was funny because it literally the day before yesterday or like just later this week, I was like, oh, what am I gonna read in August? Like I only had like 4 or 5 things on my like
Yeah.
to be read shelf because I keep mine like manageable, whereas Hannah's whole house
4
is
or
her to be
5
read shelf.
things
Yeah.
on your to be read shelf. I don't.
And one of them was Eve, which I have to read that. And one
Yeah.
of them was the book club book, which I already read. So anyway, I keep it manageable. Hannah does not keep it
I
manageable.
do not. There is nothing manageable about my books. No.
No, there's not. But that's okay. We just do this differently, and that's
We
fine.
do this.
But I was in my head thinking, it's like, oh, what am I going to read? But of course, and Hannah knows this. I have already started my fall book list
Yes, of
for my
course.
fall reading. I've started the book list,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like, oh, can I start those? Yeah. I was like contemplating starting
Little
them,
early.
but
Yes.
the books came
The
from
books.
Hannah
Yes.
yesterday. So now I am super excited. Gollum and the Genie and the Djinn is in there, which I'm very excited about. I can't remember the author's name. It's way over there. So I'm looking forward to that. That's been out for a while, and I've seen it so many places.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking forward to that. I hope it's really good. I've read quite a bit of like the fantasy in like the Jinn Gollum sort of
Yeah.
world that
The
sort
more
of
Middle Eastern
the Middle Eastern,
mythology.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, Middle
Yeah.
Eastern kind of fantasy genre stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. And then what were the other ones? Oh yeah, the Marco Polo, which I'm really excited about that. I think that's gonna be like my morning because it's like in little snippets. It's like
Oh,
the
nice.
travels of
Yeah,
Marco
yeah, yeah.
Polo. So we're really
Oh,
looking
that's
forward to
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And then there were a couple others. Oh yeah, the Sea Women one. That
Oh, the
you read.
Island of the Sea Women.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen it
There was
so
some good
often
ones.
over too. I just was at a friend's yesterday for yoga and she's reading it. She got it from the
Mm-hmm.
library. It's such, that is a book that I would
Yeah.
recommend over and over and over and over again because it is so
Mm-hmm.
good.
Let me just grab it off my shelf so we can show it to people because it's
Yeah.
just right over here.
It is worth it is so worth it.
Yeah.
It takes you on a journey, but it is so worth it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's this one. Lisa C.
Yeah.
The Island of Sea Women is what that
Yeah.
is. And that's a nonfiction, right, Han?
No,
Oh,
it's
it is
fiction.
fiction. Okay.
But it's set in a very particular time.
Okay.
So it's around the Korean War. And so you will learn stuff. Like I
Oh,
learned so much
yeah.
about Korea during the Korean War and like all that happened
Yeah.
because I just didn't know.
I know. I don't know
But
much about that either.
through this particular community as
Oh,
well.
okay.
And I'm trying to think about if I have ever had anybody read that book who has come back and told me they did not like it. I don't think I have. I mean, I think there's people who are like, okay, I don't love it quite as much as you do. Fair.
That's fair.
But I don't think anybody's ever read that book who's at least has come back and said to me, like, I don't know why. I mean, and most people do. Like, I get that a lot, by the way. It's not like people are like, oh, I can't tell Hannah I don't like her book. I don't know. I apparently have one of those cases
Yeah.
that they're more than happy to tell me they hated
You're like,
the book.
wow, that was a dumb book.
I think it's because my sister does it quite often.
You're used to it. That's why.
That's why. But I can't think of anybody. I'm going through, like, I have a list of like 5 or 6 people that I know have read it and have told me afterwards that it was like, it's really good. It's absolutely an excellent story. So, yeah.
And
But,
I just grabbed the Gollum and it is Gollum and the Genie. I thought it was Jinn, but it's Gollum and the Genie by Helen Wecker. Wecker.
Nice. That's a beautiful book.
You'll have to let me know how that
was.
cover. Beautiful book. And it's got those cool pages.
I love those pages.
I don't know if you can tell the texture there, but
I just saw a book talker who hates those pages, but I'm like, I love those pages. She's like, I hate the feel. I'm like, I think you're wrong.
No, I think you're very wrong.
Like, that's our oldness though. That's like us in we like antiquity.
They're supposed to like that's what makes it great.
I didn't send you that video. Everyone be glad I didn't send Hattie that video.
That video.
Yeah.
We'd have a situation on our hands. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, so I was just very happy that that box arrived. Because perfect now time. I know that I have a good to be read list for August. Because I really was thinking, I wonder what I'm gonna read for August.
You're welcome.
Then boom, it
showed you up bought all those books. I just sent them to you.
No, I totally did. But I forgot, I forgot what I bought. And I was like, oh, Hannah's such a book read. I'm going to be lucky if it gets here by like mid-August.
Oh, I know.
Because it didn't matter.
You know what's hilarious?
What's that?
When I ever send to Philadelphia, I think I'm only ever going to send stuff book rate because whenever it comes, it always comes faster when I send it book rate.
Yeah. Then when you send it priority mail.
Yep.
I think that's absolutely true. Like, that's welcome to the vortex that is Philadelphia.
I only ever send you books anyway, so
Yeah, so
it's fine.
what the
Yeah,
heck?
there you go.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, Laynell is back with my dinner now.
You
so
gotta go. And I gotta go watch Olympics. Oh my gosh.
go enjoy the Olympics, sis.
I love them
Okay.
so much. I just real quickly,
And
I was watching, did you even know that there was cross country mountain biking?
I did not know that there was cross country mountain biking. We
Yeah.
watched the synchronized diving last night.
Yep.
It was very good.
That
I
was
like
amazing.
that. Mm-hmm.
I'm watching the surfing, by the way. I'm like watching
Yes.
because George got me all the channels.
Yeah. No, I know. I
With
have
the
it too.
Peacock. Yeah.
But I'm a little
And
frustrated with the Peacock, but that's a different story.
okay. We're learning our Peacock.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so then like the last couple days I've been watching the surfing, which is
Yep.
like amazing. It's just
Yep.
like all these things that you never ever get to
Yep.
see.
Yep.
And sports
Yeah.
I didn't even know existed in the Olympics. So it's been
Right.
amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I love the Olympics.
Break dancing is coming
Break
this year.
dancing. Yeah,
Yep.
it's called
You have
breaking.
to watch.
They call it breaking.
It's called breaking.
Just
I'm sorry.
FYI.
Breaking.
But like to all of us who were like children of the 80s and 90s is breakdancing.
But
But
pretty exciting.
it is exciting. Yeah. Okay. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go watch the Olympics now.
Yep. And I have we don't know when we're meeting again.
No.
Do we? No, I don't
Nor
think
do we know what the genre. I wanted to look it up, but I didn't have time for August.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, and I can't do it because I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know.
we forgot.
Yeah.
We'll look it up.
We'll figure all that out and you know.
We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Gosh, we're so prepared.
We were not prepared at all, but such is life.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you have a really lovely Sunday. Hope you're enjoying what you're reading. Let us know if there's anything on your lists that we also need to read.
Need to read.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Have a good night, everybody.
Night.